silly thing in reverse.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the channel if this is the first time you're here. My name's Gareth and this is Booksongs and Love and Magic, and this is a book haul video. So I've been doing loads of unhaul videos. I've unhauled about 300 books, or just under 300 books in the last few weeks. And coupled with the couple of hundred I got rid of at the beginning of the year, I've got rid of quite a lot of books, but I am still going to buy books. So I'm trying to be a bit more choosy. And these are books that I've bought over the last few weeks in my summer holiday. Specifically either eBay or one charity shop, or in Brighton, Arundel and London. So the London thing is a bit special because it was a big event that I've already spoken about on the channel, but I'll talk about that again in a minute. But I'll go in order of when I bought them. So first stop is Brighton. Okay, so I went to Brighton, visited my son, a little surprise visit, that was really cool. But before I saw him, I went into some bookshops. And I bought Last Exit to Brooklyn. So I've seen the film when I was a teenager, and I found the book really powerful and really upsetting and really intense, really intense. But I've always wanted to read the book. So there we go, Last Exit to Brooklyn. Have you read this? What do you think of this book? Have you read this book? Let me know what you think. But I've got Last Exit to Brooklyn. This was an interesting find. I didn't know this existed. And I want to tag Mark from Book Time with Elvis. He's the sort of person that might have already known about this. And I'd like to know if he knew about this and if he's read it and that kind of thing. But obviously, if anyone else has read it, please let me know. This is a book by AA Milne, who's famous for Winnie the Pooh books. And I thought he'd just written children's books, but this is an adult mystery book called The Red House Mystery. And yeah, it says rediscovered classic, so clearly it's been under the radar a little bit, but this looks really interesting. So it's like a classic mystery story, but it's written by AA Milne. So let me know if you knew about that already. And Mark, if you're watching this, let me know if you know it. I also bought a book by Tom Baker. So Tom Baker was the fourth Doctor and a lot of people's favourite Doctor Who actor. So it was kind of weird seeing this. Didn't know this existed again. Found this in Snooper's Paradise, which is really interesting, isn't it? Snooper's Paradise. So if you're in Brighton, go in there and have a look because it's really interesting what you might find. And this is a book called The Boy Who Kicked Pigs. I've already done a little quick short about it on my channel because I read this for Garb August, as he's obviously famous for other things. So it fits into that category. And I didn't really like it much. It was all right. It was definitely an interesting curio, the fact that he'd written it. But I kind of got more enjoyment out of the illustrations than I did out of the actual story and the text. So there we go. The Boy Who Kicked Pigs, Tom Baker. Very strange book. And is that? Yeah, and then the other thing I bought, which was a bit of a spend out because it was like quite a lot of money for me to buy for one book. But this was a book that has been on my radar for quite a while. I've been looking for it, and actually I've specifically gone up to the counter in a few shops and asked if they had it or could get it, and they couldn't even get it. So I think it's harder to get for some reason for some shops. But I saw it in the comic shop, Dave's Comics in Brighton, and it was a graphic novel I'd heard about. But what I didn't realise was it was going to be such a powerful read and such a big thing. So it really knocked me for six. I loved it, absolutely loved it so much, and it really put me in a particular reflective mood. And genuinely, after I read it, I immediately started writing some poetry, and I've done a review of it on my channel, which is going to come out, I think it's next month. You're going to see the review, but whenever it is, please have a watch of the review. It's called Day Tripper. It's by two Brazilian artists called Fabio Moon and Gabriel Bar, and it's all about this guy reflecting on the meaning of life, and it's got a particular narrative device to explore the meaning of life. It's very clever, almost a fantasy thing, but not really because it's grounded in reality. But it's really brilliantly done. It's really brilliant. It sort of talks about different aspects of your life, and yeah, I've done a full review of it, but it really is such a fantastic book. It really blew me away. So there we are, Day Tripper. Very pleased I found that. So those were the books I bought in Brighton, and then when we went to Arundel. I went to Arundel with my daughter and my wife, and I had to go in Kim's Bookshop. I love Kim's Bookshop. There's one in Arundel and there's one in Chichester, It's like a multi-store second-hand bookshop, and it's amazing. So what did I find in Kim's Bookshop in Arundel? So this time I found 2 books by Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I've got a different copy of Gods of Mars, but I want this copy because I'm trying to get these New English Library versions, because I like their design. So I got that, and I'm going to probably get rid of the other one I've got. But that's Gods of Mars I've got, which is the second book in the Barsoom Martian series. And then I've also got another book, which is, he's done a Venus series, which I didn't really know about the Venus series, but this is Escape on Venus. Again, New English Library series. If you're familiar with the Barsoom series, let me know if you think the Venus series is just as good. I can imagine probably, stylistically, it's probably really similar. But I don't know. So let me know what you think of those, if you've read those. And I found a book by James Baldwin that I hadn't seen before. And it just looks really, really cool. So I've got a number of James Baldwin books, and he's on my immediate radar. I've got to get to him in the next month or so. I'll probably read one next month, actually, mixed in with my sci-fi stuff. But anyway, just above my head, I'll just read the back of it. Tracing 3 decades of American history, from the violence of the South in the 60s to the civil rights rallies in the black churches. It's the story of a black gospel singer, Arthur Montana, the Emperor of Soul, evoked through the memories of his middle-aged brother Hall. 2 years after Arthur's untimely death in the basement of a London pub, Hall is still haunted by memories of his younger brother, by the family ties that had bound them together in the face of the whirlwind hatred of the white South. James Baldwin. Have you read this one? I know the ones that get recommended to me all the time I've got, but I haven't heard this one talked about. So I'd love to know if you've read Just Above My Head by James Baldwin. A bit of a longer one as well for him. What is this? This is 560 pages. So anyway, that was that. And then I also bought a collection of Leonard Cohen poems. So these are poems from 1956 to 1968. And yeah, really interesting. Leonard Cohen and his poems. Right, so I was trying not to do that. Right, I don't want to edit this out because it'll take me hours longer, the way things are at the moment. I found this in a charity shop, Rebecca Front. So Rebecca Front is a really interesting actress, comedy actress. She's really good. I think she's really underrated, actually. She's done a lot with the Alan Partridge stuff, like with No New series, and she's done stuff with Armando Iannucci. And she was in, I think she was in The Thick of It. I'm not sure, was she in The Thick of It? Anyway, she's really good, Rebecca Front. And this is a book called Impossible Things Before Breakfast. And I was thinking, if I read this one, and I read a few others that I've got that are written by like comedy actresses or sort of witty female British celebrities kind of thing, like Claudia Winkleman and that kind of thing, I could have a little comparison video and like put 3 or 4 of those books together in a video. I think that might be quite interesting. But I think this would be good because she seems to be, what I know of her, seems to be quite an interesting and clever woman. So we'll see. So Impossible Things Before Breakfast. I'm looking forward to this one. And these next 2 I bought on eBay. So this was another moment where I thought I'd celebrate this little bit of pot of money I got at the beginning of the month. And I thought I'd spend out on this. Partly because of Garb August, because one of the categories is books by celebrities. And this is a book written by arguably one of the most famous people of the 20th century. So this is John Lennon's 2 books put together into one book. And I have read this now after having it. And this was important to me in my childhood because my uncle used to read this to me when I was really little, when I was like 8 or 9. And he used to make me laugh when he used to read it. But now I've read it now, I didn't like it. I found some of it unreadable. And yeah, I'll talk about it more in my monthly roundup, but I was very disappointed. So anyway, I've got that. And a book that definitely is not disappointing. I've got all of these stories in different collections anyway, but this was like a hole in my Richard Matheson anthology collection. And this is Button Button. Button Button's one of my favourite stories. And this is a good collection. It's got loads of his good stuff. and I would recommend this as an anthology of his stuff. But I bought this because I knew it was missing from my stuff, and I'm trying to get everything that Richard Matheson's done. So this was a little present to me on eBay at the beginning of the month. Button, Uncanny Stories by Richard Matheson. Right, okay, so now we're going to talk about London. So there was a really big event. It was fantastic. 27 booktubers got together in London. Most of them I hadn't met before. Well, actually, most of them I didn't know. A lot of them I didn't know at all. And there's a few that I'd talked about and become friends with, talked to over the time, but I hadn't met in face to face. But it was just so brilliant, making these new friends, and the whole day was lovely. And we went to, I don't know, about 12 bookshops or something. But I'll talk about the books I bought on this day. So we started off. I've already done a video, by the way, about the whole thing. So that video is just about the experience of meeting these people, making these new friends, walking through London with them, chatting to different people at different times, all that stuff. The meal we had, all that stuff is in this other video, which I'll link below. But this is just about the books, because I thought it'd be nice to do it separately, because I can just rave about what a lovely day it was in the other video. So we met up in a Waterstones. That was the first shop we went in. And it's a big shop, and it had a massive cafe in the bottom, which is why it could accommodate so many of us. And the first thing I found was a John Wyndham book I didn't have, called Stowaway to Mars. So I'm trying to get all of John Wyndham's stuff, and I'm trying to get them in this series. I don't particularly like the artwork, but to be honest, every John Wyndham book I've seen, I haven't liked the artwork. So I don't know. If you recommend a nice cover of one of his books, that'd be cool. But I haven't, for some reason, he seems to get dodgy covers. But anyway, this was his second novel, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I'll let you know what it's like. So I found this John Wyndham book. I really like John Wyndham. And while I was at the counter, I just snapped this one up. I couldn't resist it. I saw his name and I went, yeah, I don't know what that was about. Maybe it was because it was the first shop and I had the money to go for it. But this is Armando Iannucci, who I mentioned a minute ago. And this is like his kind of witty book about the COVID pandemic. And it's probably really good. But I don't know. It's a little hardback thing. So it's probably way too expensive for the amount of time it would take me to read it. But hey, it's just... I do like him a lot. I don't know if you've seen the film David Copperfield, but he wrote that. He's done various things on our TV over here, but he's an interesting guy, very funny. So yeah, there we go. Pandemonium. Some verses on the current predicament, which is clearly COVID. Right. So while I was in the queue to buy those books, right in front of me, the next person along was Charlie, who I've spoken about before. I'll link her channel below. And Charlie had bought this. And I said, oh, I almost bought that. I was definitely looking at that, and I was definitely curious. This is like a cozy book about a bookshop, written by a Japanese author. So it's a translated work of fiction, and it just seems like a really nice book about a bookshop. And I nearly bought it, and then Charlie bought it, and I said, oh, I was interested in that. And then I think Charlie suggested that we could buddy read it, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. I'll get it in another shop today. And then the next shop we went in, which is Hatchard's, Charlie found it and called me over, and I bought it. And then it kind of started this domino effect, because obviously everyone was like, what's going on? Because we were talking about it quite loudly. And then a few other people bought it as well. So there's about 5 of us, I think, that are going to read this, which is really cool. I know Jack from Spread Bookjoy is reading it. I think Alice is reading it from the Giant Bookshelf. And I know Katie, who ran the whole event, bought it as well. Books and things. So yeah, we're all going to read it. So that'll be fun. We need to coordinate, I think, because then we can all read it at the same time. But yeah, this seems really good. And it works for Shorty September, I think, because it's quite short as well. So I'm going to try and get involved in that this year. And then the other book I bought in Hatchard's, which I was really pleased to find, is a non-fiction book by Ursula K. Le Guin called Dreams Must Explain Themselves. And I really was so pleased to see this. I try and buy anything I can find by her, but it's unusual for me to find something I haven't got. So that was really good to see that. So that was an Ursula K. Le Guin book that I'm I've got as well to add to my other books, which is really cool. And when I was getting this, there was a few of us that were in the science fiction section. We were talking about Ursula K. Le Guin. It was just really nice to talk about her as well because I'm such a fan. So that was good. And then we went to Foyles. We went to a few other shops, but we went to Foyles, and I basically found I really was quite lucky with that particular visit to Foyles because I found 4 books by Charles Bukowski that I didn't have. And Charles Bukowski is a very important author for me, and to explain why, because there's a very specific reason, and I know he's problematic for some people because he's got a very extreme personality and his writing is quite extreme, even though it's quite blunt, and it's almost anti-literary in some ways, but then he's also got these amazing moments when he'll just write a line that just knocks you for 6. So he's a bit of a funny character in some ways, quite difficult to pin down, quite an unusual man. But some of what he's written about women or his attitude to women in real life is what turns people off, which is fair enough. But I do talk about this in a video that I've already filmed that's scheduled for like November time. He had a very, very, very important part to play in my life. During my late teens, I won't talk about it too much because I had to pick a moment to talk about this because it's a very upsetting thing to talk about. So I had to be in the right frame of mind, and I went through this, and I thought I'll try it, and I videoed this video where I wanted to talk about why he's important to me, and I knew that I knew if I'd picked the wrong day, it would go wrong, and I'd get upset in that. But I did film the video, and I'm fine with it. I think I edited a bit out. I edited a bit of it out when it got a little bit too much information. But ultimately, despite the fact that he can be problematic or people are turned off by him, he's always going to have a huge part of gratitude from me, and I'm always going to feel indebted to him because of that. So I do collect his stuff, and I found 4 books I'd never seen in a shop before, so that was pretty cool. So Foyles really did well for Charles Bukowski. There was The Night Torn with Mad Footsteps. There's early works here, which I was so pleased to find. Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame. So as you can see, these are 1955 to 1973 poems. And then Dangling in the Torn of Forcia. Again, another book I hadn't seen before. And then this one, it's got an absolutely classic title. This is Play the Piano Drunk Like a Percussion Instrument Until the Fingers Begin to Bleed a Bit. And because it's got a ridiculously long title, it actually looks pretty cool on the cover as well. So I like the cover design on that one. But anyway, it's 4 books I hadn't ever seen in the flesh. I'd read about them and knew about them, but I'd never seen them in a shop. So that was really cool to see them in Foyles. So, got those. We went to a few other shops. We had dinner. We went to a shop. We actually went to Scoob Books, and I didn't buy anything there. I found a few things that were really cool and important books for me that I already had. And I suggested a few books, which was really nice. So there was a few people that went away with some books that I recommended. That was a really nice thing that happened. But then we went to Gaze the Word, which is a really good shop that obviously supports or is part of the LGBTQ plus community. It's a really good book to check out if you want to support that community. And I wanted to buy this particular book anyway. So I thought it was a really nice chance to buy it so I could support the shop. And I'd heard about this author and this book from Willow, from Books and Bow. So yeah, I found the first book that this guy had written in the library, Friday Black. And it's brilliant, short stories. This is probably even better. So I don't know if you've seen this being advertised, Chain Gang All Stars. But it's a British black author that tackles racism head on, really, really blatantly, discussing racism in a big way. And this is more of a sort of science fiction kind of, I think it's kind of like a Running Man kind of situation, but obviously talking about racism in institutionalized racism. So yeah, this looks amazing, and Willow did a great job talking about it on Books and Bow channel. So I'll link the review that they did on their channel and below as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this. This was the last thing I bought on that day. So I had one more trip, like an overnight stay in London, because I went to see 2 concerts this last weekend, and I didn't buy loads, but I did buy some stuff for my cartoonist collection. So I've talked about my cartoonist collection a few times on the channel, and this is 2 books based around the character Max. So written by, or drawn by, Giovanetti, and it's really nice to see these. These were found in an Oxfam in Hammersmith. So 2 more books to add to my cartoonist collection by Giovanetti. So really nice to see, and that's it. That's the books I bought. Please tell me what you think of those books. If there's any books in there you've read or you want to read or you would recommend, or other books by the same people. Tell me if you've read Day Tripper, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Bye.
Paint me a picture